The woman standing before Emily in an expensive cheapah was her biological mother, Catherine, who had divorced her father 20 years ago. Catherine took Emily's twin sister, Sophia, and never looked back. Despite this, Emily often saw her mother on TV, gracing financial news channels and gossip magazines in elegant dresses at high-end banquets.
Tearful, Emily, I'm so sorry. After all these years, I finally found you. You have no idea how much I've missed you. Every time I looked at your sister, I wondered where my Emily was, how she was doing, if she had gotten married.
Emily was taken aback, and a warmth she couldn't describe surged in her heart. Summoning her courage, she trembled as she called out,
"Shy, Mom."
Instantly, tears streamed down Catherine's face as she hugged Emily, her shoulders shaking with sobs. Emily felt moved, despite deceiving herself for years. Deep down, she knew she had missed her mother. 20 years ago, when Catherine divorced her father, she didn't even glance at Emily, who was crying and calling her name. She just took Sophia and left without looking back. Emily had hated her, resenting her for being so biased. Despite having two identical faces, Sophia was always her first choice. But today, Emily no longer felt that hatred. The longing of over 20 years had washed away the resentment. Besides, her mother had suffered from the same longing. Once their emotions had somewhat stabilized, Catherine looked at Emily, hesitant to speak.
Serious, Emily, I want to ask you for a favor.
The joy of their reunion had already clouded Emily's judgment.
Cheerful, what is it, Mom? Just tell me how I can help.
Relieved by Emily's response, Catherine smiled.
Serious, Emily, I want you to come home and live with us. Angry, you don't know, Sophia ran away with a poor boy. How could she do this? She was my only precious daughter.
A bucket of cold water was poured over Emily's head. All the talk of reunion and long-lost family was a lie, a trap. Catherine had come here to make Emily take Sophia's place and marry into a wealthy family. Emily's face darkened, and she rudely shook off Catherine's hand. Catherine's expression turned unnatural, and she adopted a harsher tone.
Unfriendly, Emily, this is a golden opportunity for you. Without us, you would never have a chance at such a life. Besides, you should know how to be grateful. Consider it as repaying your father's medical bills.
In the heat of July, Emily felt a chill to her bones. She should have known better. There are no such good things in life, everything comes with a price. Emily, from now on, this is your new home.
Numbly, I followed Catherine, feeling a cold shiver as I looked at the luxurious villa.
Emily, this is your bedroom. Mom knows you like pink, so it's decorated just the way you like it.
You know I hate pink. This is what Sophia likes.
What girl doesn't like pink? Sophia liked it, so I couldn't. She was the only princess in our family, and everything she had was unique. Mom knew this too, so everything I got was in gray, white, and black, fitting my dull existence. Catherine looked embarrassed by my bluntness.
Well, I'll leave you to rest. You've had a long day.
She stepped out but quickly returned.
Oh, and from now on, I'll call you Sophia. You need to get used to it. Until Sophia comes back, remember, you are Sophia.
Got it.
I didn't want to argue with her anymore and shut the door behind her. The name Sophia made me sick. If I remembered correctly, the man Catherine had an affair with was named Charles. She used to complain about my dad's lack of ambition, and when she was young and beautiful, she seduced the company's general manager. After his wife passed away from the stress, she quickly divorced my dad and married Charles. To show her loyalty, she even changed Sophia's last name to Charles.
I sat on the floor, feeling disgusted by the pristine room. I missed my cramped little house. Holding back tears, I looked up at the sky. Dad, I miss you.
Catherine always said I was a spitting image of my dad. When I was young, I often heard her call him useless, saying he was too honest and deserved to be poor. My dad never argued back, even when she had an affair and asked for a divorce. He begged her to stay for the sake of us two sisters. But Catherine left us anyway. My dad, worried I'd be scared alone at home, carried me to the breakfast stall every day. The motherly love Catherine didn't give me, my dad doubled. Exhausted from crying, I pulled out a blanket I brought with me, planning to sleep on the floor tonight. Everything in this house disgusted me, filled with the scent of their illicit marriage. Just as I finished setting up, there was a knock on the door.
I assumed it was Catherine and didn't want to deal with her. Say what you need to.
There was no response, just louder knocking.
Annoyed, I opened the door, surprised to see a stranger.
The man looked at me and sneered, "So you really are twins. Not only do you look the same, but you both have the same bad temper."
I didn't care about his insults, but comparing me to Sophia was unacceptable. Are you blind or just stupid? We may look alike, but Sophia is mean inside and out. Can't you see that? I smiled and pointed to my head.
He wasn't angry, just looked at me with a hint of amusement.
Sharp-tongued. You're better at this than your sister.
He pushed past me into the room.
Hey, you can't just walk into a girl's room.
A guy brazenly entering a girl's room and looking around. He paused, noticing the blanket on the floor.
With a complex expression, he said, "First, this is my house. I'm not intruding. Second, what's with this? Trying to gain sympathy?"
From his words, I guessed who he was. He looked about 20, clearly not my half-brother. That left one possibility: he was Charles's son from his first marriage.
Catherine had briefed me on their family. If I remembered correctly, his name was Ethan. Yes, Ethan. After his mother passed away, he forced his dad Charles to change his last name to his mother's maiden name, Ethan. His words brought back my suppressed emotions. I struggled to speak. I'm not trying to gain sympathy. I owe you nothing.
But the tears betrayed me, and Ethan looked stunned.
After a moment, he awkwardly said, "That's not what I meant."
I ignored him, shaking out the blanket.
Enough. I didn't touch your bed. Why are you shaking it out? Think it has dust?
I turned and smiled silently.
Why so stubborn? You'll catch a cold sleeping on the floor.
His sudden gentleness surprised me. I stared at him, speechless. Feeling guilty under my gaze, he said irritably, "Fine, your mom asked me to call you for dinner. You think I wanted to come?" "Sorry, I really thought you were just bored and came to bother me." Following him to the dining table, I saw Charles was there too. Ethan didn't resemble him much. Charles's face was full of cunning, clearly not an easy person. Ethan, on the other hand, had a clear, naive look.
"You're here. Let's eat. We've been waiting a while."
His first words were a veiled jab at me. Clearly, I was in a den of wolves. I wondered how Sophia survived these 20 years. The table was silent, even my 5-year-old half-brother didn't dare misbehave, showing Charles's authority in the house. I focused on my food, unfazed by their atmosphere. Since I was here, I might as well settle in. Hopefully, they'd find me unbearable and send me away.
But Charles suddenly spoke. Sophia, now that you're here, you must fulfill your duties.
Here it comes, the reminders.
Tomorrow, Daniel from the Chen family will come to take you to meet his elders. Behave yourself.
Charles was indeed a sly old fox. Everyone here knew my true identity, yet he kept up the pretense even at home.
I obediently replied, okay.
This was my real purpose here, to replace Sophia in dating and getting engaged to Daniel. The Chen family was a prominent one in the city. Charles must have worked hard to secure this match. But Sophia, not thinking straight, ran off with a poor boy, abandoning this golden opportunity. Charles couldn't let such a catch slip away. I bet even the idea of using me as a substitute was his. Catherine wasn't clever enough for such schemes. Early the next morning, Catherine dragged me out to get dressed and made up. She put me in Sophia's clothes, but the dress felt a bit tight on me, especially around the chest. As time was running out, Catherine hurriedly took me downstairs to wait for the young master of the Chen family to pick me up. As we passed Ethan, I could feel his gaze linger on me for a moment.
Oh no, I forgot the gift. I'll be right back.
She rushed back upstairs. Ethan sat beside me, giving me a once-over.
Nice figure.
Are you crazy? I'm at least your nominal sister.
The word sister seemed to hit a nerve, and his face immediately darkened.
Don't go around claiming relations. What kind of sister are you to me?
I had a feeling he was more focused on the you part, as if he was specifically targeting Sophia. Just then, the sound of a car approaching grew louder. It was about time. I guessed the young master of the Chen family had arrived. I stood up, ready to leave.
Be careful with Daniel. He's not what he seems.
What do you mean?
Just don't trust him too much. He's not a good person. Anyway, take care of yourself.
He said the last part quickly, as if afraid I wouldn't hear it, and then ran off, his ears turning red. Daniel seemed different from those rich young men. He was gentle and polite, and his behavior was always respectful towards me.
If it weren't for Ethan's reminder, I might have completely let my guard down around him. That wouldn't be good for my current situation.
Sophia, what's wrong?
Nothing, I'm just a bit nervous.
It's okay, don't be nervous. They all like you.
As he held my hand and rubbed it suggestively, I felt uncomfortable seeing his eyes occasionally glance at my chest. Finally, we arrived at the Chen family home, and I no longer had to be alone with him. Just as I was about to relax, a girl dressed scantily rushed over and hugged Daniel's arm. Oh my goodness, I couldn't bear to look. The girl seemed oblivious, persistently pressing her ample chest against Daniel's arm.
Daniel, brother.
Daniel seemed to enjoy it, flirting back with her. The Chen family acted as if nothing was amiss.
All right, I get it. This wasn't a family dinner, it was clearly a setup.
Sure enough, as soon as I sat down, Daniel's mother spoke up.
Oh, Miss Charles, such a big shot. Can't sit down without our Daniel pulling out the chair for you?
Daniel is such a gentleman. Auntie, you have raised him well.
Daniel's mother seemed like a simple person, and my words hit the mark, so she didn't give me much trouble for the rest of the evening. After dinner, it was time for me to leave. But Daniel was nowhere to be found.
I wandered around the yard for a while, just about to leave when I heard some strange noises.
Daniel, brother. Are you really going to marry that woman?
Just putting on a show for you, darling. Don't worry.
Oh. Wasn't that the little flirt from earlier? TSK, Daniel really was no good, having his cake and eating it too.
I wanted to eavesdrop a bit more, but they started getting intimate right there.
An idea popped into my head, and I took out my phone to snap a few photos from a distance. In this precarious situation, I needed some leverage to feel secure.
Narrator, Tone, friendly I have to say, Daniel is quite a character.
Emily, Tone, disgusted one moment he's sweet-talking with some girl, and the next he's charmingly offering to take me home.
I was thoroughly disgusted. Rich kids like him are just like toads, ugly but full of tricks. Ethan, another rich kid, was up late at night, not sleeping. When I returned, he followed me around with some strange intentions.
Emily, Tone, unfriendly, why are you following me?
He blocked my door with one hand, preventing me from closing it.
Ethan, Tone, concerned, are you okay? Did Daniel do anything to you?
Emily, Tone, sarcastic, why would anything happen to me? Do you actually care about me?
I replied sarcastically, which indeed made his face darken.
Ethan, Tone, serious, I'm worried you'll embarrass our family. I'm seriously asking you, did he do anything inappropriate?
Seeing that he meant no harm, I answered sincerely.
Emily, Tone, serious, I'll answer you seriously. No, he didn't do anything to me. Emily, Tone, annoyed, he's much better to me than you are.
Ethan, Tone, serious, are you blind or just naive? Don't tell me you've actually fallen for him.
His tone suddenly became serious, and I couldn't be bothered to reply. Just as I was about to close the door, he somehow brought over a blanket and threw it at me.
Ethan, Tone, shy, it's new. Don't want you freezing to death and making people think we mistreat you.
A sudden warmth filled my heart.
Emily, Tone, relieved, alright, Ethan isn't that bad after all.
To play this role well, Emily had to replace Sophia at the Charles Group. She handled everything at work personally, afraid that someone might notice any discrepancies. But she didn't expect her serious work attitude to attract others' displeasure. Catherine stormed into the office with a sour expression.
Emily.
If you have something to say, just say it.
Emily didn't look up, continuing to work diligently. Her attitude only made Catherine angrier.
Emily, what are you doing?
Do you really need to work so hard?
I'm just following your instructions to act seriously. Is that wrong too? Whether it's an act or not, you know it in your heart. You and Sophia are both my daughters. I don't want to spell everything out. But you need to understand, don't covet what isn't yours.
You misunderstand. I don't care for a penny of your family's money. I don't value the wealth you gained by abandoning your husband and daughter.
Catherine was furious, losing her composure as a lady, and pointed at Emily's nose, calling her ungrateful. Tired of her madness, Emily slammed the door and left. Saying she wasn't hurt would be a lie. Emily couldn't understand how, with the same face, Catherine could be so biased.
When we were kids, Sophia was sweet and knew how to make her happy. My personality was more like my dad's, honest and reserved.
Whenever Emily upset her, Catherine would point at her head and scold, "Who are you pretending for with that deadpan look? Just like your useless father. I shouldn't have given birth to you, always stealing from our Sophia."
Yes, I shouldn't have anything. Just because I was heavier at birth than Sophia, I was accused of stealing her nutrients and was forever indebted to her.
Emma, why are you hiding here? Go get your crazy mom out of here. It's embarrassing.
Ethan's annoyed voice came from behind. But Emily was so tired, she didn't want to talk.
Did you hear me? What are you daydreaming about? It's embarrassing. Soon everyone in the company will know. I'm talking to you. Don't you really want people to know you're an imposter?
Whatever. Let them know. It's none of my business.
Hey! Can you respond? What, trying to get a share of the pie by being exposed? A fake will never become real.
Hearing this, Emily's grievances and anger surged up.
I don't care about your family's money, and I don't care about replacing Sophia. She is she, and I am me. I am not her substitute.
After venting her anger, all that was left was grievance. Shouting the last sentence, Emily finally couldn't control her tears. Ethan was visibly startled.
I was just saying, why are you so upset?
Grievance surged like a tide, and Emily squatted on the ground, crying uncontrollably.
Why does no one ever believe me? I never wanted to steal from Sophia. Sophia wanted everything, and I gave it to her: hairpins, dolls, mom's love. I gave her everything. Why don't they believe me? I don't want anything.
Ethan slowly squatted down, holding Emily and gently patting her back. His chest was warm, and Emily's tears and snot smeared on it.
Why does no one ever believe me? I never wanted to steal from her.
I'm sorry. I believe you.
Emily cried for a long time, until she was exhausted and fell asleep without knowing it. In a daze, Emily felt Ethan lift her and later place her on a bed. When Emily woke up again, she was lying in the lounge, her eyes swollen and uncomfortable, but her face felt refreshed, as if someone had wiped it clean. There were a few cups of water on the table, but only one still had some warmth. A sudden image of Ethan bringing in cup after cup of water flashed in Emily's mind. When the water cooled, he would get another cup. Now, picking up that warm cup and taking a sip, Emily couldn't help but think of Ethan again. She had to admit, Ethan was quite considerate. Since that day, my relationship with Ethan had become complicated. I sensed he was trying to be friendly towards me. But every time I saw him, I remembered my tear-streaked face. It was incredibly awkward. So now, I kept my distance from him. After all, I wouldn't be here for long. Once Sophia returned, I would leave. Better to avoid trouble. In preparation for the upcoming engagement, both families decided to have a meal together. Daniel and I played the loving couple again. But I could feel Ethan's intense gaze on me. It made me extremely uncomfortable.
Excuse me, I need to find Daniel.
I hadn't even reached the restroom door when I saw Daniel making out with another girl.
Seriously? Another one?
This guy is really something, with his future wife and in-laws just inside. How embarrassing if they saw this. I shook my head, my sense of awkwardness kicking in. I was about to leave when I bumped into Charles.
What did I say? Caught by the future father-in-law.
I was ready for a scene, but Charles just glanced at the couple indifferently.
You saw that.
I saw it.
What do you think?
I don't think anything. It's not my business.
He gave me an approving look.
You're smarter than Sophia. I heard you're doing well at the company.
I'm just doing my job.
Oh, I see. I think you'd do better if you stayed.
I know my place. I'll leave when the time comes.
Charles smiled even more, his hand lightly touching my shoulder. I felt nauseous and quickly stepped back. But he grabbed my other arm and dragged me into the hallway. I struggled, but I couldn't match the strength of a grown man. Just as I was about to fight back, a voice called out urgently from outside.
Dad, Mr. Chen and the others are still waiting for you inside.
It was Ethan. Charles glanced at me, chuckled, and let go. I collapsed to the floor, dry heaving. It was disgusting, I could smell the old man's scent. Seeing how sick I was, Ethan carried me to the restroom. I leaned over the sink and vomited until I felt better.
What kind of perverted father do you have?
He may be perverted, but why are you hitting me? I'm a decent guy, okay?
If it weren't for your dad, how could he do such a disgraceful thing?
Let me tell you something even more disgraceful. Sophia and he have that kind of relationship too.
Sophia? What does she see in him? Does she like the old man's smell?
I thought about it and vomited more.
She sees his money.
My worldview shattered. Just then, voices came from outside the restroom. I quickly pulled Ethan into a stall. Yes, Ethan, the decent guy, had brought me to the men's restroom. The small stall was mostly occupied by Ethan, who was over 6 feet tall. I was squeezed so tightly I could barely breathe.
Don't move.
I'm uncomfortable.
With no other choice, Ethan pulled me closer. I could hear his heartbeat. Though I felt a bit better, I inexplicably started to feel warm. The footsteps outside stopped, followed by other sounds. I recognized it, it was still Daniel. The heavy breathing made it clear what they were doing. I wanted to cry. Couldn't they find another place? I didn't dare look up at Ethan, the awkwardness filling the small stall. But the increasingly loud heartbeat in my ears made it hard to think. Just as I was about to look up and remind him, I met his deep eyes. I could feel his breath on my cheek, the distance between us closing. Finally, a soft touch landed on my lips. I instinctively closed my eyes, sinking into Ethan's kiss. In my ears, the sound of 2 hearts beating grew louder.
You don't know, Sophia ran away with a poor boy. How could she do this? She was my only precious daughter.
A bucket of cold water was poured over my head. All the talk of reunion and long-lost family was a lie, a trap. Catherine had come here to make me take Sophia's place and marry into a wealthy family.
What are you talking about?
My face darkened, and I rudely shook off Catherine's hand. Her expression turned unnatural, and she adopted a harsher tone.
Emily, this is a golden opportunity for you. Without us, you would never have a chance at such a life. Besides, you should know how to be grateful. Consider it as repaying your father's medical bills.
In the heat of July, I felt a chill to my bones. I should have known better. There are no such good things in life, everything comes with a price. Morning came, and I sneaked back to my room while Ethan was still asleep. It felt like a beautiful dream that should end with the dawn. The engagement party was grand, with media from all over reporting the event. In the news, Daniel and I appeared as a loving couple. Daniel's gaze was tender, overflowing with affection. His acting was superb, no wonder Ethan was so upset. The news continued on TV. Catherine came over at some point and angrily turned it off.
Emma, you don't actually believe this, do you? Don't forget, this is just a show. When Sophia returns, you will have to leave. Both Daniel and the Yen family belong to Sophia.
I've heard this so many times that I'm tired of it.
I casually agreed and tried to head back to my room. Unexpectedly, she grabbed my hand.
What do you mean by that? Can't I even say a few words to you now? Do you really think you're a lady of the house?
I don't think I'm a lady of the house. It's you who acts like a noblewoman after turning from a nobody.
What did you say?
Her twisted face couldn't be hidden by her delicate makeup. Following the script of a typical drama, the next step would be her slapping me in anger. Sure enough, but I dodged quickly, and she fell to the ground.
How many times have I told you, I don't dare to spend a penny of your family's money? After all, it's not clean money. Who knows how much sorrow it has on it, right?
Startled by my words, she widened her eyes, looking at me as if I were a ghost. At that moment, there was a commotion outside the door. Sophia stumbled in, her high heels broken, and threw herself into Catherine's arms. Her clothes were dirty, and she looked disheveled.
Mom, I was wrong. I shouldn't have run away with that scoundrel.
My precious daughter, I missed you so much. While you were gone, your sister bullied me terribly.
It turned out Sophia's boyfriend was only with her for money. When her money ran out, he showed his true colors, getting drunk and mistreating her daily. He even planned to kidnap her for ransom from the Yen family. Sophia overheard his plan and escaped back home. After their tearful reunion, they turned on me.
Emma, now that Sophia is back, you should pack up and leave immediately.
Mom is right. With your status, you don't deserve Daniel.
Who cares about Daniel, that rotten cucumber? We share the same blood. If I'm not worthy, how are you? Sister, we were born equally lowly.
Catherine must have taught her daughter well. Unable to out-argue me, Sophia tried to hit me. I've had enough. Why should they get away with their misdeeds? I rolled up my sleeves, tossed my long hair back, and slapped her twice across the face. Catherine couldn't stand seeing her precious daughter suffer and lunged at me.
How about it? Still want to fight?
You ungrateful wretch, after all I've done for you.
Emma, you lunatic! How dare you hit me with your lowly status?
What's the big deal? I only ate your food for 2 months. Even pigs at my house get more than what you gave.
Catherine, though scolded by me, didn't dare to talk back.
And you, aren't you lowly? Don't think I don't know how you seduced Charles.
Sophia's face turned pale, looking at me in horror.
I won't make things difficult for you. Just give me 5 million, and I promise to leave quietly.
I was definitely leaving. I didn't want to stay in this toxic place any longer. But I wouldn't let them off easily. At the mention of money, Catherine couldn't sit still.
Emma! Are you crazy for money? Dream on! I won't give you a penny!
Oh, think carefully. I have everything I need. What if I tell the Chen family you found a fake bride to deceive them? What would they think?
I took out my phone and played a recording. I started recording from the moment Sophia entered, just in case something interesting happened. As the recording played, their faces turned paler and paler.
So, will you give it or not? Mom doesn't want to, but what about you, sister?
Sophia, already broken by my revelation, couldn't hold up against the recording. She had worked hard to escape Charles and marry into a wealthy family. She wouldn't give up easily.
I'll give it. Just don't say anything.
She grabbed my arm with trembling hands, looking utterly defeated, no longer resembling a lady. Emily stood in shock, her mind reeling from Catherine's revelation about her daughter Sophia.
You don't know, Emily. Sophia ran away with a poor boy. How could she do this? She was my only precious daughter.
What? You mean to say all this reunion, long-lost family, was just a lie? A trap?
Catherine's expression shifted to unnatural and harsh as Emily shook off her hand.
Emily, this is a golden opportunity for you. Without us, you would never have a chance at such a life. Besides, you should know how to be grateful. Consider it as repaying your father's medical bills.
In the heat of July, Emily felt a chill to her bones. She should have known better. There were no such good things in life, everything came with a price. After confessing his feelings, Ethan started visiting me several times a week. We began a sweet long-distance relationship, and our brief separations made our reunions even more special. However, lately, I haven't had much of an appetite and feel nauseous at the smell of meat. So, I decided to visit the hospital. I thought it was just a stomach issue, but I was stunned when I left the obstetrics and gynecology department. I was pregnant, 1 month along. If I calculated correctly, it happened the night Ethan came to my place. Still in shock, I accidentally bumped into someone.
Oh, look who it is, my vain little sister.
The world is indeed small. I ran into the last people I wanted to see. Catherine was supporting Sophia, eyeing me warily, while Sophia looked at me with a provocative smile, her hand resting on her flat stomach. This was the hospital entrance, I understood. She was pregnant too. Not wanting to engage with them while pregnant, I turned to leave.
Wait, what are you doing here?
Catherine's suspicious gaze swept over me. She grabbed the report in my hand without asking.
You're pregnant?
Just take care of Sophia. I don't need your concern. I reached to take back the report.
Whose child is it?
Don't worry, it's not Daniel's. I find him repulsive.
Hearing this, Catherine visibly relaxed. Indeed, she wouldn't allow anything to threaten Sophia.
It's Ethan's, isn't it? Catherine looked at me disdainfully.
I was shocked, and my subconscious panic was evident to her.
You've been following me? Unbelievable. She would stoop so low for her precious daughter's happiness.
Do you think he will marry you? You should reconsider the situation.
If a mistress can rise to the top, why can't I marry him?
In my eyes, she was no longer my mother.
Emily, this child shouldn't be born. Don't forget, I hold shares in the Charles Group. I can make sure Ethan loses everything.
I don't know how I managed to walk home in a daze. A strong sense of unease loomed over me. I could sense that Ethan was hiding something from me lately. He would often sit alone in the living room smoking after I fell asleep. I vaguely felt that something was wrong with the company, but I couldn't help him. This child might even become a burden to him. I was lost, touching my still flat belly, yet feeling its strength. The news of my pregnancy couldn't be hidden from Ethan. He accidentally found my prenatal report one day.
You're pregnant? This is wonderful! His eyes sparkled with joy.
But he noticed my distraction.
Is something wrong? You don't seem happy.
I told him everything that happened at the hospital.
How could she be so cruel? Isn't this her grandchild too?
Yes, in her heart, there was only Sophia.
Ethan hugged me, offering comfort.
Don't worry, I'll handle everything.
What about the company? What if she really tries to sabotage you?
I've been busy acquiring shares lately. I'm almost ready. I just need a reason to make Charles step down.
When did he start preparing for this? Ethan seemed to read my thoughts, gently touching my head.
I started after I confessed to you. I wanted to remove all obstacles so you wouldn't hide in your shell like a scared turtle.
A warm feeling filled my heart, bringing tears to my eyes. Besides my father, there was someone else willing to bear everything for me. I leaned into his embrace, letting the tears flow. He sighed and held me tighter.
I didn't want it to come to this, but since they bullied you, I can't let them off easily.
A few days later, I finally understood what Ethan meant by revenge.
It started with news of Daniel's infidelity with a young model. Most of the ambiguous photos in the news were taken by me.
During the time I was pretending to be Sophia and dating Daniel, I had taken photos of his unfaithfulness, originally intending to use them to extort Sophia.
But after hearing my plan, you handed over the photos without hesitation. The media, eager for sensational stories, painted Sophia as a well-educated, expecting wife betrayed by her husband.
The public always sides with the underdog, and sure enough, they began to pity her, bringing a lot of attention to the Yen Corporation. This was exactly the effect we wanted. After a few days of heated discussion, just as things were about to calm down, another storm erupted. This time, the protagonists were Sophia and Charles.
Someone revealed that the Yen Corporation's heiress was actually a daughter brought over by Mrs. Chen after remarrying, and that this heiress had compromised herself to curry favor with her stepfather.
A scandal involving a wealthy family and an illicit affair shot straight to the top of the news charts.
A few days ago, people were still feeling sorry for Sophia, but now they turned their anger towards her. The Yen Corporation's PR team had yet to respond, and the public opinion was spiraling out of control, even causing their stock to drop a few points.
According to Ethan, the Yen family was in complete chaos.
Catherine had smashed everything she could at home. Charles, overwhelmed by the company's and family's troubles, had disappeared to one of his mistresses, rarely coming home. Sophia had been kicked out of the Chen family. If it weren't for the child she was carrying, Daniel might have harmed her. Now, she could only stay at the Yen family, enduring Catherine's scolding.
At this point, Ethan paused, looking at me with hesitation.
Finally, he couldn't help but sigh. Catherine seems to have lost her mind. Every morning, the first thing she does is run to Sophia's room, pointing at her and calling her ungrateful, saying she's shameless. After she's exhausted from scolding, she cries and laughs, hugging Sophia and calling your name.
She says she's sorry, that she knows she was wrong, that she shouldn't have favored Sophia so much.
My heart skipped a beat, and I tightened my grip on Ethan's hand. Sensing my emotional change, Ethan pulled me into his arms, gently patting my back in silence.
I took a deep breath, as if exhaling all the resentment accumulated over the years. I felt a sense of relief. It didn't matter anymore. None of it mattered to me now. I had my father, Ethan, and the child in my belly. I would have a happy family.
Narrator, Tong. Calm. I continued my daily routine of visiting my dad in the hospital, then returning to my small home to wait for Ethan to come back from work. Narrator, Tong. Curious one day, I came home to find a pile of baby supplies at the door, with clothes for both boys and girls, and a longevity lock in one of the bags.
Emily, Tong. Serious, this longevity lock, it looks familiar.
Narrator, Tong. Reflective. It was the one Sophia took from me when I was 6. She had insisted I stole her longevity lock, crying pitifully in Catherine's arms. No matter how I explained, it was useless. Catherine would only look at me with disgust, saying I had sticky fingers and she didn't have a daughter like me. Narrator, Tong. Sad. Later, while cleaning the house, she found Sophia's longevity lock. 2 identical locks lay in her palm. She was silent for a moment, then put one into a box. I watched from the corner as she took the box back to her room. She didn't give it to me, didn't say a word, as if nothing had happened. Narrator, Tone, resigned from that moment. I vaguely understood that I could never compete with Sophia. Mom would always unconditionally side with her. Now, looking at this returned longevity lock, I felt nothing. This longevity lock was the only thing I could equally share with Sophia since birth.
Emily, Tone, serious, what I longed for was the equal love I never received. But now, I no longer craved that love.
Narrator, Tone, resolved. I put the pile of things into the storage room. After all, not everyone who regrets their mistakes deserves forgiveness. Narrator, Tone, hopeful. Not long after, Ethan told me that Catherine had turned herself in, revealing the truth about the incident that led to Ethan's mother's passing. Charles was also imprisoned. Sophia's pregnancy had complications discovered during a checkup, and she couldn't keep the baby. Daniel divorced her because of it. Narrator, Tone, cheerful. Later, Ethan became the company's chairman. We held our wedding on a sunny morning. My dad walked me down the long red carpet and handed me over to Ethan. With tears in his eyes, he solemnly slid the ring onto my finger.
Ethan, Tone, trembling Emma, I lost my mother when I was 7, and since then, I've lived with hatred, losing the meaning of life. But your presence rekindled my hope. I think if I can see your peaceful face beside me every time I wake from a nightmare, I can face any terror.
Narrator, Tone, emotional as he finished, his tears fell onto the back of my hand. I laughed and called him silly, but tears rolled down my cheeks uncontrollably. I knew about his nightmares, how he curled up, calling for his mother, filled with regret for not noticing her worsening condition sooner, for not saving her.
Emily, Tone, comforting. We both knew it wasn't his fault, he just couldn't move on. But it's okay. From now on, I will be with him. 2 wounded souls will warm each other.
Narrator, Tone, hopeful. We will have a happy home. We will have a lovely child, and we will teach them how to love. They will have a life completely different from ours.